blind, but now I see.
Yeah, we had some great heroines during the course of the war. One in particular, Miss Susan King Taylor. Now this was an extraordinary woman. She never let nothing get by her. Her thing was education and health. Miss Susan King Taylor, please come to the room.
Thank you, sir. As a wee gal, born in the country, just outside of Savannah, Georgia, a Gullah Geechee gal.
Gullah Geechee gal.
A Gullah Geechee gal.
Yeah, honey did it.
The truth now.
To ask the master, because she sent me and my brother to Savannah to my grandma.
Yeah, yes.
And then my granny took us in, and my granny sent us to a woman who taught us how to read and write. Now, you know, it was against the law that time.
Yeah.
So we couldn't do it publicly.
No, ma'am.
We had to go in like we was going there to work in her kitchen and get some kind of trade. But there I learned how to read and write. And by the time I was 14, I met a fine man named Mr. King, who was also in the military, and he became my husband. But unfortunately, I lost him early. But I was allowed an opportunity to serve with the 54th Mass. Although I was hired as a laundress on record, because of my writing and reading skills, I was able to teach the soldiers how to read and write, and I also served as their nurse. I saw many, many, many of my boys hurt, shot.
Yes, Lord.
Oh, God.
Yes, Lord.
Between the skeeters and the cannons. Oh, my God. I said, Lord, just give us strength. Give us all strength that we can get through this, because we know we're fighting for freedom.
Yes.
And I stayed. And that's what motivated me. It just motivated me to take care of my boys. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'd like y'all, thank y'all coming out this evening, today. I'd like to introduce the head of Company I here in Charleston, South Carolina, my mentor, Mr. Joseph McGill.
Yes, sir. Joe McGill.
All right. I'll try to get some
Volume.
Here you go. All right. I want to thank y'all for coming out today. Thank you to all that Ernest thanked before. He went down the list, and I believe he did a beautiful job. But there is one person in particular I want to point out right here, right now, and it's our drummer. Our drummer, Mr. Cameron. Stand up. Stand up. This is the second time he's been in formation with us, and I've told the older guys, if you want to get in a photograph, stand beside the drummer.
That's right.
There you go.
Right.
I want to. They gave you some details, some particulars of how the 54th Massachusetts got to this spot here on this island and why we're doing this today. I want to give you some information about the bigger picture. And why we found ourselves engaged in a war that initially our Union government, our President Abraham Lincoln, did not see fit to let us as blacks be a part of that fight. For when our state of South Carolina, those 169 men decided to sign that ordinance of secession on December 20th of 1860. Again, 169 men. I'm sure that those 169 men were property owners and had a lot of reasons for signing that ordinance of secession, taking the state of South Carolina out of this union that had been organized. As a result of that, our federal property in this area, Fort Moultrie, Fort Sumter, was areas that needed protecting by Robert Anderson and his men inside of Fort Moultrie, who found themselves in a situation where they all of a sudden became the enemy. So they left Fort Moultrie under the cover of darkness on December 26th of 1860 and proceeded to Fort Sumter. And for those of you who are going out to Fort Sumter, going out to Morris Island today, as you cruise by Fort Sumter, I want you to imagine that fort the way it is today, and the fact that it was 3 stories high back at the time when Major Robert Anderson and his men decided to go over there and occupy that fort, because it was a lot easier to defend, more so than Fort Moultrie. So they found themselves there at that fort awaiting further orders. President Buchanan at that time kicked the can down the road. Let Abraham Lincoln take care of this, because it's because of him that these states seceded from the Union. Let him deal with this problem. So on April 12th of 1861 at 4:30 a.m., that 10-inch mortar shell shot from Fort Johnson on James Island sailed a mile and a third over the harbor and exploded directly over Fort Sumter. Major Robert Anderson and his men would stay inside that fort in a battle that lasted for 34 hours. After that 34-hour battle, they were allowed to leave Fort Sumter, where they proceeded to a hero's welcome. The day after, that day, our President Abraham Lincoln put forth a call for 75,000 United States troops to come put down this rebellion that he thought would last a matter of 6 months. And when he put out that call, men who looked like us wanted to be a part of that fight. But President Abraham Lincoln was not ready for that. To them, to the North, this was a war about preserving the Union. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about slavery. It wasn't about eliminating that peculiar institution. It wasn't about that to them. But those men who wanted to join up, they knew what that war was all about. It was not until the Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st of 1863, after a few months earlier, the Battle of Antietam, when our President Abraham Lincoln could proclaim a victory for the Union, he put forth that Emancipation Proclamation, and in that Emancipation Proclamation was a clause that said, men who look like us could be a part of this Union Army. And when he put forth that clause, Governor John A. Andrew of the great state of Massachusetts started recruiting men for the 54th Massachusetts. And when he started recruiting those men, he was a little worried because he needed 1,000 men to make a regiment. And they weren't coming in quickly enough. So he extended the boundaries beyond the state of Massachusetts. And when he extended the boundaries beyond the state of Massachusetts, men started coming in so quickly, he had to form the 55th Massachusetts. And why is that important? 2 days ago, we were on Folly Island commemorating men of the 55th Massachusetts who left their home. Men who were free even before the Civil War decided to come here to South Carolina to be a part of a cause that they believed in. And those men died on Folly Island. And their bodies were discovered years and years later and reinterred in the Beaufort National Cemetery. But the reason why we're here today, right here in this spot, is because men of the 54th, on July 16th of 1863, the men who were a part of an experiment because even our Union Army, our Union government did not believe that we could make good soldiers. They thought that at the first sight of the enemy that we would cut and run. We not only had to prove to ourselves that we could be good soldiers, we had to prove to the world that we could be good soldiers. So on July 16th of 1863, the 54th Massachusetts sent 3 units, 300 men into battle. We got our baptism of fire on that day. And on that day, our baptism of fire, we had 27 men killed wounded, or missing. But we proved to ourselves, we proved to the world that we could be good soldiers. And we kept the Connecticut unit from being captured. They were allowed to retreat in an orderly fashion. But that was not the real prize. The real prize, we would find out 2 days later. 2 days later. July 18th of 1863. But if you look back even further back than that date, our federal government decided that the best way that method that we could use to take Charleston was by land, because earlier we had engaged the enemy in a battle on James Island called the Battle of Sol Legare. Saw a lot of action here on James Island. Our federal government, earlier we had engaged in a battle called Secessionville.
Right.
Our federal government, after that defeat at Secessionville, decided that the only way that we could take Charleston was by a siege operation. We had to place our cannons as close to the city of Charleston as we possibly could, because we had to take Charleston, the cradle of secession. That's where this war all started. We needed to take that place. So we decided Morris Island. And Morris Island had on it Battery Wagner, Fort Wagner as it was known by some. And it was there on July 18th of 1863, that fateful day of July 18th of 1863, that Colonel Robert Gould Shaw and the 54th engaged the enemy at Fort Wagner. And in that particular battle, as portrayed in the award-winning movie Glory, we had 247 men killed, wounded, or missing. Yes, we lost that battle. The Confederates were victorious on that day. But in that major engagement, we proved that we could make good soldiers.
Ambassadors here, we'd like to get a few words from Education Specialist Extraordinaire, Park Ranger Extraordinaire, Mr. Michael Allen of Fort Sumter.
Thanks, Ernest. Again, I just want to encourage everyone that came out here today to look behind you and to see the building that you see behind you in its glory. Because if you perhaps been here several months ago or several years ago, it didn't look in the manner that it looks now. And I want to echo something that Joseph McGill shared earlier about turning the pages of history and to bring alive things that were hidden in plain sight. And Joe and I can say that, a number of us can say that, because we've been involved in preservation and interpretation and history for me over 31 years. So when I can come to a public event on July the 18th and see folks out here taking a part of the history and story, I'm pleased that the work that we have done have not been in vain. But we need other folks to also encourage us. Joe and I can't be every place. Queen Quet and I, we can't be every place, because we get all the calls, all the emails, all the texts, all the facts. And we appreciate that. That's the calling that we've been given. But we're in a time and a season where we're asking other folks to join us. So I just want to commend you all here on Sol Legare for the magnificent work that you all have done. This is a testimony and a testament that it can be done. And this is a way of encouraging other communities, not only here on James Island, not only here in the Low Country, but across our nation, that we can tell the stories of our African American experience, because that experience is a part of understanding our American journey.
Absolutely.
So we find ourselves today at a thread in a fabric of our American story. And so I just want to thank you all for the opportunity for coming out, and thank you, Ernest, for at least being patient with me. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. And last but not least, we have our special lady here from the day, talking about Gullah. Now, when you look at the word Gullah in the dictionary, you see the word Queen Quet.
Oh, I love.
Any gonna see him do that?
Okay.
I am
a checker, but I won't in the story.
Get the other camera if you need it. All right.
Miss Goodwin, thank you very much for coming on.
I want to tell them to do today.
I'm so glad to see all the family were there and things like that at 54th and things. I'm so glad Hunter still there and cracky teeth, but how Hunter get down here? Okay? And all of these you want to know me. Always talk about the first South Kakalaki now. You know me have to crack my teeth about the first South Kakalaki along with the 54th every time I crack my teeth. But I'm so glad for day up on Sol Legare one more again and for be here with the family of James Island and everybody will come from all around the country and things for day with we down here. Because plenty of time when people are coming here now and they'll study what we and then they look on me, then they get you and ain't yet with the cracky teeth like this, tall and they hear us talking like this and then they go back to Washington and New York and New Jersey and say, oh, I didn't find any of the Gullah Geechee people there. But we dare ya and we ain't going nowhere. And so all of what have been to crack their teeth instead of snout, they've been a fight for freedom, we still do that now. And we're so glad that all 100 children come out for this year because they're honor, for we to pay honor to them, will fight for we to be here today and can say we free. So y'all join me one more time. Say, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Over we. And before we be our slaves, we will be buried with graves. And going home till we go and be free. Y'all keep on keeping that drum beating for freedom. God bless your children. Keep on keeping them.
Thank you very much.
So Hunter children, we're so glad that Hunter had this year chance to tune in one more again to Gullah Geechee TV Nation News. And Hunter to kind down this year with, make sure you come here to the Sol Legare Museum and things like that. And guess what? The Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival 2012 coming right here. So make sure that Hunter children join we. Go to www.gullahgeechee.info and Hunter gonna keep up with where we to go with the Nation Festival. So we're so glad that all 100 children remember who we are always. And remember, if Hunter ain't know where Hunter today from, Hunter ain't going to know where Hunter to go on. So know your story and continue to tell it. You have a right to the tree of life and to freedom. God bless your children. This year the head for the body, this year Gullah Geechee Nation and the host of Gullah Geechee TV station, Queen Quet. Peace and blessing. 100 children know this year the what going on.